Welcome, professional wrestling fans, to the PW Fan. The PW Fan is a pro wrestling podcast created by fans for the fans. And we thank you for joining us. This is episode 87. I am your host, the grumpy old school wrestling fan, collector, barber, singer, and guitarist of Fall Bright, Talk Wrestling, Tim Gilbert.
And I'm your host, the architect of pro wrestling podcast, Funko Pop collector, Booker Andy.
I'm also the host, the No Selling Wrestling Indie fan and football lover, Jeremy.
All right. Well, we got the introductions done. Today we are going to be talking about Seth Rollins' first feud, MJF and Adam Cole, a new women's championship, and more. We talk about this every week. It would really help us out if you guys go to YouTube, look up the PW Fan, and hit the subscribe button. It really does make a difference for us, and it goes a long way. For all other social media, you look up at the PW Fan, where we kindly ask you to follow us. And something that we haven't talked about in a while, if you are listening on a streaming service like Apple or Spotify, we would love for you guys to leave us a review. That would be great. Again, helps us out so much. T-shirts, we got them on ProWrestlingTees.com/the PW Fan. Bunch of different designs with some new stuff coming. All right, well, that wraps up all the big intro stuff. Andy, we got a good show this week. I went over a little bit in the beginning. I'm going to pass it over to you and let you take it from here.
Let's get going. Starting with Raw. Seth Rollins, the new World Heavyweight Champion, opens up the show. Says it's been 2 years since a world title has been defended on Raw. I guess what? Roman defended it one time? Maybe against Riddle? Maybe that's where... I don't remember where they wrestled.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe that the world title had been 2 years since on Raw. But looking back at Roman's run, I guess it makes sense. So he put out an open challenge on Twitter, and Damian Priest apparently answered it. So the Judgment Day comes out, and Damian said he doesn't need the Judgment Day. Seth says for him to put his money where his mouth is. And this is a quote from Seth. He said, "Truth be told, it's probably best you leave the Prince back there. He doesn't fare too well when he gets into fights with me." And then he poked Finn's right shoulder. I liked this part a lot.
That was cool.
And then
I'm
pretty sure he did his little laugh. Yep.
I can't believe, though,
Dude,
it's so crazy. I'm sorry to interrupt, but, like...
Oh, you're fine.
It's weird that... Think about this, Andy. If we were watching in 2002, 2003, that would be, like, Triple H doing a callback to, like, a feud that he had with, like, The Rock or someone, like, a long time ago. It's weird how much time... Like, think about, like... I don't even know if I was married yet when Finn and Seth had the match where he got the shoulder hurt. So that's like referencing something that at this point it doesn't seem that long ago, but with like COVID and stuff, it's a long time ago.
You ready to be mind-blown? This SummerSlam will be 7 years.
Dude,
7 years.
The Universal Championship has been around 7 years. Yeah.
I still remember when they announced it, and I was like, how stupid of a name that is.
The dumbest name ever. And then you just get used to it. I guess that's like the tale of every wrestling fan. And and I think Vince always knew that when it came to shows. He's like, they might hate it now. They'll stop complaining about it later, and it will just be the norm.
So, Andy, if we were watching, just to put some perspective for maybe some older fans, if we're watching in our prime childhood in like 2002 during a Ruthless Aggression era, Seth making that comment would be the same as him making a callback to 1995. So, like, that's how I know. That's how long in the timeline. Like, that's crazy.
Insane. Yeah. Well, there's more that he's going to do with this. So Damian accepts the challenge to leave the Judgment Day in the back. And Damian says he'll be the champion at the end of the night, and Seth will go down in history as one of the shortest title reigns. And then Rollins says, any way you slice it, my reign's already longer than his ever was. And then laughs and drops the mic. Talking about Finn.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Just so crazy,
So-
man. Like, just that timeline perspective is just so crazy of like what a blip in time some things like actually were. Like WCW in general being like the top company. If you go from 97 to 99, like, dude, 2 years is nothing. That's nothing. Like it's like
Yeah.
it's just a
They
it's
went
like,
downhill quick.
like it went from everybody's buying Sting and Goldberg action figures and all this stuff in 2 years, and all of a sudden 3 years later it goes out of business. That's crazy.
Yeah. What the hell?
It's like if AEW
But-
went out of business last year. It would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because they're like 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, it's like that. Well, that was short lived.
Or they started in 2019, fall 2019, I think. Yeah, no, you're right. But speaking of the Seth and Finn stuff, what I had read is that that's going to be Seth's like first feud will be Finn. So it's kind of full
Source?
circle.
Source, pal.
Sorry.
I read it off of Ringside News, but
All right, that's a source.
yeah, but
It's a
they
good
get
first
their
feud, I
stuff.
think.
They get their some stuff from other things. That's like a hub.
This is a
But I
fan
mean, based on what they're
podcast.
teasing.
We're
based
not
on what-
journalists.
Based on what, yeah, based on what they're teasing though with stuff like that, I mean, yeah, it makes sense if that's the direction they're headed. Finn is a viable, opponent for Seth, and it's an easy story to tell. Okay, then we had a women's Money in the Bank qualifier: Becky Lynch versus Sonya Deville. Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark staying at the top of the ramp during this match. And Becky Lynch is the winner, so she is going on to Money in the Bank. We had Imperium interrupting Kevin and Sammy's backstage interview. Kevin Owens freaks out and says that they broke the unwritten rule again. The first time they broke it was the week before when they came out without being asked to come out. And I just gotta say, this is one of my favorite things. That is like, even though it's such a small part of every show, for Kevin Owens like freaking out kind of stuff is
Yeah. Kevin Owens being angry is the funniest thing ever.
yeah. And then Sammy has to be like the one to calm him down and be like, okay, it's fine. He's like, no, it's not fine. I mean, the SmackDown one was great. That was probably my
Yeah.
favorite so far.
That was great.
But we'll get to that. So he challenges. So after breaking the unwritten rule, he challenges Gunther to a match who has a problem with Owens' anger, and Owens storms off and goes straight to the ring. This match was awesome. It was so. It was. I mean, I got to say this. Raw was filled with really good matches this week, and this was kind of the start of it. Gunther and Kevin Owens was really good.
And also,
but the
wasn't
win-
this Raw in like where WWE headquarters is?
It was in
And
Stanford, yeah.
Yeah, and there was Vince
Yeah, it
was
was in
there, and everyone
And
else.
Vince didn't change anything on the
Crazy.
show, I believe. It was this show. But Gunther won due to Imperium's distraction, so it doesn't take anything away from the one half of the tag team champions. Shortly after, Matt Riddle gets into it with Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci of Imperium backstage. Then we had the debut from Katana Chance and Kaden Carter of NXT versus Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. The winners were Ronda and Shayna, and I got a lot to say about this match. Were you able to catch it, either one of you?
I thought it was pretty good.
I
So,
only saw,
I thought it was a
I only
great day-
saw. Sometimes I'll watch like the YouTube clips of some of this stuff. So I saw the condensed.
I know WWE
version.
posted a lot of clips on like Instagram and stuff
Yeah.
of this match. So I thought it was a great debut. I obviously have said before I watch NXT still, but they were in it during the Black and Gold brand. They've been around.
Speaking
God,
of which,
Katana Chance, I think.
for all of our video viewers, I am rocking the old school. What is this, like 2016, 2017 Undisputed Era gold shirt?
Undisputed. Well, we are going to talk about Adam Cole later, so
I'm getting old. I'm getting old. I'm getting
it
old and
fits.
fat though, so it's not starting to. It's starting to not fit. Literally.
But Katana and Kaden, Katana Chance actually, before, this is how I found out about her. She was in the first ever women's Royal Rumble. That's how long she's been down there in NXT.
Oh.
She did like the Ninja Warrior kind of stuff in that match. I don't know if you remember. She was like holding on to the post after almost getting eliminated. But I thought they carried the match. They're an actual, and I wrote a couple things down. So they're an actual team, instead of one that was just randomly thrown together, like you see with all the other women's teams on SmackDown. They actually do double team moves, unlike the other women's tag teams on Raw and SmackDown. The crowd was dead when they came out. I don't think a lot of people knew them, but they really started to get into them as the match went on. And fans online, after looking at the clips, they felt the same way. And apparently they also impressed people in the back. So I look forward to seeing more of them. And I wish like Raw and SmackDown would do more with the women's teams, because NXT like actually tries to build these teams as teams. It makes them
normal tag teams.
Yeah, like you would with men's. But lately, everyone's just been Shotzi and Raquel or Liv and Raquel or like I don't know, man. It's just super random. But these two have been teams for a long time. So, and
you can tell too. It's not like
the crowd was really entertained. There was a video package though for Johnny Gargano, and he teased the way during this promo or this video package.
I feel about this.
But it seems like they're going to tease the way, but bring in Ciampa, because there was talk about DIY. Coming back. So, Tim, were you watching NXT during DIY? That was like right when I started watching, is when they broke up. But you were watching it before me.
Yes, I was. So from what I remember, it was Gargano and Ciampa did not like each other, and then hang on, wait. No. They were like thrown together basically. And then, so it became
They didn't
DIY.
know what to do with both of them, yeah.
Right, so it became like DIY, which at first, I'm not going to lie, I was like, this sucks. But then they like got everybody to get behind them, including people like myself, who are a little bit more
Didn't
jaded.
they have really good matches with FTR? Or
that
was
was some of the best.
Yeah, and then they started feuding with each other and had like a bunch of crazy bangers.
Some classics.
When they won the titles from FTR, though, that was like one of the biggest pops on one of the on NXT takeovers.
Really?
Because it was building.
And they were like an underdog team.
Yeah, because they had it before. Like they had it on another takeover, and FTR beat them, and then everyone's like, "Oh, kind of lost out everything." But then they actually won. I think it was in Toronto. I think that's where it was. But the place went crazy.
So if that's the direction where they're going, I mean, I'm into it. It's just Dexter Lumis bothers me.
Yeah, me too.
But Indy Hartwell is on the main roster. Candice is. Everyone but Theory. Theory was in the way down at NXT.
He's not going to be in this time.
No. All right, we had Miz TV. Cody Rhodes is the guest. Miz was jamming out to Cody's song the entire time.
Yeah.
And he was singing it. So he brings up Cody wanting to fight Brock, and he brings out his surprise guest, which turns out to be Dom, who's accompanied by Rhea. Dom and Cody do a promo. Cody talks about how Ray's definitely made mistakes in his life, and he's looking at one of them right now, that being Dom. Dom slaps Cody and gets out of the ring fast. Cody's not too happy, and Cody ends up knocking out the Miz. So, I read a few things today. Like Cody might be having a match with Dom at Money in the Bank. Not a fan, but
yeah, I don't like that.
Or a mixed tag match. I don't like that either. Be his partner.
But I don't either, like it's just like I mean, like Andy and I were talking before of like you go from Brock, and then you're facing Dom. And I know you said like he needs a win, but
or do you do this? There was also something I read that he could also team up with Seth. So if that's the case, this is what you do: you do Seth and Finn on a team against Damian and Finn, which leads to Seth versus Finn at SummerSlam, 7 years to the exact pay-per-view rematch. Booker Andy. Booker. Book it.
Book it.
7
That's
years.
actually a good idea.
7 years.
I remember I remember when Shawn Michaels came back after 4 years of a back injury. They're like, he's been gone for 4 years. They made that shit seem like it was an eternity.
That doesn't sound like it. As a kid, that felt like it was so long ago that Shawn retired.
Yeah. God, I'm
but
sorry.
7 years ago doesn't feel that long.
Well, that's like when Punk returned. That was 7 years he's been gone.
I know.
But that doesn't feel as long as it's been since Finn and Seth.
I know.
That 7 years feels longer than the 7 years we're talking about.
Yeah.
Wild.
I don't know,
That's
man.
crazy.
Everything's crazy. All right, we had another women's Money in the Bank qualifier. Zoe Stark versus Natalya. Winner was Zoe Stark. And then our main event was Seth Rollins versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. During the match, Finn Balor tried to get involved, but to no avail. The winner was Seth Rollins. And we had a Finn and Seth face-to-face as the show goes off the air. So I wrote down first feud, Balor and him. I think so, but I think you saved that for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it. Do you guys have anything to add before we get into Dynamite?
That was a good show.
I thought so too.
Yeah, I like this one. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on Dynamite this week because I don't know. I just feel like in preparation for what they got coming up, they could have done better, but I didn't think it was that bad overall. So let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Does it open with
Dynamite
the Orange Cassidy match?
sure does. But I'm not going to talk about the match. I'm just going to talk about what happened afterwards.
You just need to
Sting
know
and
that
Darby's-
if you're gonna watch Dynamite, it's gonna start with an Orange Cassidy match. Just assume he's Tony Khan's favorite wrestler.
Oh,
That's
also,
crazy.
I saw this TikTok I sent to you guys, but it was like during the press conference afterwards for what the last pay-per-view,
Double or nothing.
Double or Nothing. Someone asked Orange Cassidy, like, "Are you one of the best wrestlers in the world?" And he just looked at him. He's like, "No."
Yeah,
He's like, "Not even
I
close."
remember watching that. He laughed about it. He's like, "What are you crazy for even
Yeah,
thinking
and
that?"
Tony kind of looked at him like he was like, "No, you kind of are." And I was like, "No, Tony."
He's like, "No." He's like,
Tony. Shh.
No, I hated Orange Cassidy's entire interview during that.
Was that?
I hated Orange Cassidy's entire interview during that
Yeah.
whole thing. He was like too in character and too I don't care. He was like Moxley during the Stone Cold Broken Skull session. Like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
it was just bad. So Sting and Darby save Orange Cassidy from the Mogul Embassy. Yeah, we're badass.
We're gonna
So
bleed
I
everywhere.
don't even know what the point of this was. They like pairing Darby and Orange Cassidy apparently. Hangman and the Bucks challenge the Blackpool Combat Club to a match next week without Danielson and Takeshita. So what do they call it? When Hangman's with them, they're the Hung Bucks. I hate that name.
The what?
The Hung Bucks. Hangman
That's what they call them?
and the Young Bucks. That's what I heard Excalibur call them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I absolutely
Terrible.
hate that.
All right, let's get to the next segment, though, which I thought it was the best part of the show. MJF. So MJF comes out.
Obviously,
Says, nobody's on his level.
Obviously,
And he says nobody's on his level. Adam Cole then comes out. MJF compliments Adam Cole and his accomplishments. Talks about following Adam Cole's path himself. And he was excited for Cole to come to AEW, but was disappointed when he showed up. He said, "Didn't you used to have the body and physique of a world champion? Now you're so frail you make crack whores jealous."
oh my god, I can't believe they brought it up on air.
What?
Just about the way he looks.
Yeah,
He said a lot more.
Yeah. he says, I forget what happens, but he says AEW fans don't know what the fuck they're talking about. He says AEW has done everything to make Cole look cool.
Oh, he did.
And I'll go on to add to this part because I didn't write it down, but he basically did an Adam Cole promo from NXT.
Yeah, almost
ending
line by
with they ring the freaking bell.
Yeah,
which was, and you can see Adam Cole do a little smirk. Yeah. After MJF ended it like that, he changed a few words here and there, but it ended with the same. They ring the freaking bell, and I didn't even know it until I saw like a TikTok of it or something of them.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember him saying that too because he was like, the end line is like, do you know what they do to make, and when he said it, Adam Cole cool,
he was feuding with Karrion Kross.
Yeah.
He's like, you got the cool entrance, the girl.
Yeah.
He was like, they did so much to make you look cool. So then he says, rumor about what Vince, he talks about the rumor of what Vince, I hate it when they bring up Vince's like name and WWE.
Well, he didn't even say it like that. He was just like, and do you know who said that? And he was like, Vince McMahon. I was like,
he says Vince McMahon. And he's like, didn't think he was top guy material. And he says, big fan, by the way.
I don't like this. I'm sorry, but I'm still I subscribe to the rule of if you're number one, you don't talk about number two, and number two always talks about number one, and it sounds petty as fuck. I'm sorry. It just gets old after a while.
AEW, WWE does not mention AEW.
They barely, maybe they have a few
They do like
times.
little like hints.
Literally, like on one
without
hand,
actually coming out and saying it. But
on one hand, and this is including like Stone Cold Steve Austin, like Skull Ranch podcast. On one hand, they've even acknowledged their existence.
Like, but they don't ever say their names, Tony Khan, and they never say AEW. They just say references that if you know what they're talking about, you know.
It's mostly from Cody now too.
Yeah. Or when the DX reunion happened, they said, wasn't there another member? He's like, yeah, he's doing something somewhere with office equipment. Like talking about Billy Gunn and scissoring. Like they don't outright say it, but if you know, you know kind of thing.
The thing is, like, whenever I heard this from Tony Khan, it like makes a lot of sense, but I hate this marketing tactic. Because remember, do you hear when he was in the interview and he said like Turner said how it's like Burger King, McDonald's?
They want him to do this.
Yeah, they want him to do that, and I was like, I don't like that though. Like, I get
why would you do
he doesn't
stuff
know,
that you failed before as a company. Why would you do the same shit again?
Yeah.
So Andy, I don't know if you saw that interview, but it's an interview where they basically, like Tony Khan was explaining like how AEW's the Burger King to McDonald's, right? So basically, they were like, we want you to take a shot at them, like, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it just seems weird to me.
Yeah, like the network wants you to mention another show on another network.
I don't like it.
Have you ever noticed Burger King is the
free
one,
advertising?
Dude, Burger King is the one that's always Burger King and Wendy's are always the ones making commercials.
Burger King's Twitter.
Yeah, they always are the one. They're the ones always talking shit about McDonald's, about how small their burgers are, and like they're thin and it's not real this and whatever. Meanwhile, McDonald's is like, yo, you want this Big Mac? Come on in. And they're just raking in the money, dude.
You know what we got?
They don't even care, dude.
Yeah.
So we're just still only like halfway through this segment, but I'm going to keep it pushing. So after he talks about the rumor that Vince didn't think Adam was top guy material, he said that he thought Vince had lost it, but now he thinks Vince was right. Adam Cole gets on the mic. He questions MJF's obsessions with relationships, going through him and Britt, Brian, and I guess his like family relationships. But wasn't there like someone else that he like mentions relationships about?
I don't remember.
Oh, well, it doesn't.
I think it was just those two.
So he mentions MJF's fiance leaving him. He says
again, though,
MJF is world class.
The low hanging fruit. It's like, yeah, that's already been used before. Like, we know that. His the fiance left him.
Well, I think he was basically saying you're obsessed with everyone's relationships because your fiance left you. Is why.
Been there, done
He
that.
says MJF is a world class douchebag. He talks about bringing up his body and then his body of work.
Oh, that's a good one.
He said, you talk about bringing up my body, but then his body of work, he's like, MJF can't touch his body of work. He said, but if you want to bring up my body, let's go backstage, piss into a couple of cups, and see who's natural and who's not. And you get a big crowd reaction from the fans. MJF, you can hear him go, that's not funny. He says, we're nothing alike. He says that no one backstage respects Max. No one in the crowd respects Max. And then MJF says, that's an awful lot of talk coming from Keith Lee's manager. Adam Cole says, if you were a real champion, you tell me to shut my mouth and you would fight me. If you're going to remember anything from our conversation, you won't fight me because I'm better than you, and they know it. And then as Cole goes to turn his back, MJF grabs him and says, don't turn your back on me. I'll wrestle you any day, and I'll beat your ass.
I really liked this exchange. This was some good. Two guys I like, and
last week,
just because Adam Cole was skinny now or whatever, like, doesn't mean I don't like him. Dude, I love Adam Cole. Adam Cole is awesome. I just was hoping that he was like physically like not sick or something, you know. It was just it just was a drastic change. That's all I'm saying, you know.
But I mean, literally last week during our podcast, we were talking about please move on from Jericho. Yeah. Look, man, some don't work out, and Jericho feuds usually go a lot longer than Adams and his did. I thought they were going to keep it going, and not just end it with a mixed tag match. So I don't know who pulled the trigger on that. I don't know if it was supposed to end short, or if this was supposed to be the full lifespan of it. But I think everyone's been waiting for Adam Cole to be. I mean, he had a title match with Hangman when Hangman was champion, but I think that this is the one that at least I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So I hope they do it justice. I mean, they were supposed to wrestle this week, but I don't see it ending there. They're really dumb if they don't want to milk this.
Well, they had it set. I hate these matches too, but they had it set for this Wednesday. It's a title. What's it? Eliminator. So if Adam Cole beats him, then he gets a shot at the title.
Adam Cole's gonna beat him.
Yeah, but like then you've already seen that match.
Yeah, but he's not gonna win cleanly.
Like this Wednesday?
Yeah.
I think
They're not
he
gonna
would
have
win.
the champion lose clean.
Dude, it's like Rocky IV, dude. It's like Rocky IV, dude. The champion gets beat, dude, then he comes back. Whatever.
I don't know. We'll see. We had the Hardys, Isaiah Cassidy, and Ethan Page backstage.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. You fucking Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
The Hardys, Isaiah Cassidy, and Ethan Page backstage. They want to turn Ethan into a better man and get rid of the ego. And then Isaiah Cassidy moans in Ethan Page's ear.
I hate that so much.
Huh? Wearing a studded neck brace.
That's the sound clip of the week is Jeremy saying, I hate that so much, and Andy and I both being like, Tony
Khan announces the first main event of Collision. Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Samoa Joe versus FTR and CM Punk.
Bro, let's
CMFTR.
go. Let's go. I hate six-man tags,
Are they-
I'm in. Let's go.
Are they even going to have like Punk come out at all, or just like his
That's what I was
first
gonna
screen
say.
time is just going to be
I feel like he
coming
has
out
to talk.
there doing the business,
He has to talk though, right?
getting the fuck out?
He's
I
going to
mean,
go
I would
in there.
think he opens the show.
I think he opens the show still.
Watch, Orange Cassidy comes out.
It's like I open every AEW show.
All I know is first of all, I'm like 10 pounds fatter than I was like a year ago, so I got to get me some new Punk merch. But I'm ready, baby. I got T-shirts ready to roll.
So we'll see what happens.
Saturday night.
I will be at Tim's house watching it this Saturday night.
Jer Bear, if you want to come over, the invite is there.
I will hopefully be back from a wedding.
Okay, well, if you're back in time and want to come down to the country, out into the
country,
the Tim Radisson, if you want to come to the Tim Radisson, we'll be out here.
Me and Tim watched the first Dynamite together. I remember that too. I went to his place.
That's actually where Dynamite is this Wednesday in DC.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. They mentioned.
By the way, boys,
this week.
little current events tied in with wrestling. First of all, I'm glad to hear it sounds like no one was significantly injured and everybody's okay. But apparently, if we're going to go to Mania in Philly, we are very much going to be taking the Amtrak up there. Did you guys hear about that?
No, 95?
The bridge blowing up?
Section collapsed.
Dude, that's going to take like years to fix.
Yeah.
Or blew
the
up.
The entire section fell. Well, there was a tanker below, and there was a tanker below, and it exploded, and it looks like someone just sliced through, and the section just.
We may have some. We may have
Crazy.
some listener. We may have some listeners out of the country, and or on the West Coast who might not be familiar with I-95. So it's basically the main corridor through the East Coast.
Plan your route.
Yeah, it takes you from the top of the East Coast, basically down to Florida, and there's a part up by Philly that's extremely fucked up right now, for lack of a better term. So, if you're coming to Mania in Philly, plan your route, do some research.
I'll be there. I will be there.
I'm telling you though, this road will 100% not be fixed by then. I would put money on it.
We do got to talk about that, boys, off air at some point.
Andy's going to be at Mania with or without us.
With or without us, Andy's going.
I'd rather be with you, but
without getting into it on air too much, my idea, and I talked to Jeremy, we get a train up, we stay in a hotel for 2 nights, we go to both nights, we come home on the train. Boom.
That's ideal.
That's ideal. We got to figure out the pricing, but we'll talk about that off air. What's up next? What do you got for us?
Don Callis and Takeshita segment after Takeshita's match. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to say Takeshita. Yeah, I mean, these guys right now, especially Don Callis, I think, is becoming like the Dom of AEW at the moment. People are not allowing him to really talk. He was really, at one point, he was like, what am I supposed to do? And I don't know if that was like part of like his shit or not, like if he was like supposed to say that. But he's like what? Like they were just booing him so loudly. So he was like yelling this promo. And then our main event was Jay White versus Ricky Starks. Thought this was a good match. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of Jay White. I hate that he's attached with Juice Robinson. Jay
White as a serious single star by himself, no silliness, away from the Bullet Club would be sick. And I like the Bullet Club. I have a Bullet Club tattoo. I'm just saying.
I think he's got a good look. He can go in the mic. He can go in the ring. Former NJPW champion. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see more. I just can't stand hard.
I really saw something in him. What was it? Last week or 2 weeks ago, there was something about his promo, and Rock Hard was standing there in the background, but there was something about his promo where he was being like a condescending jerk heel, and I was like, dude, this guy could be awesome if it just was shown in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you watch him in New Japan, that's like how AEW should do with him.
Well, that's what I don't understand. It's like, why do these guys come here and they're in a lot of ways just like WWE? Like when they come up from the indies, like people will be like, why didn't they do what worked for him? I'm like, why is he not doing that? He should be doing that.
Like, don't fix what ain't broke.
Right.
But yeah, I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
his interviews at like the tables, like their little conference tables afterwards, and in New Japan.
Yeah.
Like after his match, he always
his is really
was
good.
really good. But I thought this match was good. The ref gets knocked down, and the Guns for some reason come out and attack, and the winner in the end was Jay White. But I'm excited for Jay White and Punk to be in the ring together.
Yeah.
I think that'll be cool.
Punk's a big fan of his.
Good. Hopefully Jay White doesn't hate Punk. I doubt they've ever met, actually, since he's been overseas for so long.
Yeah, because Jay White wasn't even big yet.
I just saw, speaking of New Japan and kind of like weird dream scenarios, I just saw, I can't remember the promotion, but I saw Matt Cardona and Will Ospreay had a match. So I'm like, that's something I'd like to see. I'm a fan of both of those guys.
Was that a death match?
Very different styles. No, I think it was just a regular match.
Yeah, I can't wait for that Omega Ospreay match at Forbidden Door, though.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be sick.
Do you guys have anything to add to Dynamite before we get into SmackDown?
No. It was another good show.
Andy, while you're doing the SmackDown introductions, I'm sorry for the unprofessionalism, but I actually need to run to the restroom. So introduce the SmackDown segment. I'll be right back.
SmackDown opened up with Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa. Jey Uso ends up coming out, and a lot went down here. But the whole I'm trying to think of how to word this. The whole thing was basically like, whose side is Jay going to be on?
Yeah.
With this whole Jimmy and Roman situation. So it's like, will Jay, fall in line and join them, or will he stick with his brother? So a couple of things that were said here. Heyman says Jimmy's in on the fact that the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, wants to groom you, the right-hand man, to be the next tribal chief. That's your future. That's your destiny. That's your fate. He says, unfortunately, because of Jimmy, there's no more tag team in the WWE known as the Usos. And Heyman basically says, you can have this spot, and we'll even give you a shot at the United States title later tonight, and Jay won't give him his answer right away. He says, but the shot sounds good. And so our main event is then set for Jey Uso versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship. We have a men's Money in the Bank qualifier. Santos Escobar versus Mustafa Ali with LA Knight. Yeah, joining on the commentary. Winner, though, was Santos Escobar of LWO. So both Zelina and him have qualified for the Money in the Bank. The NXT Tag Team Champions, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, come out, who were drafted to SmackDown during the recent draft. Ronda and Shayna, the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, interrupt them, and they challenge the NXT Champs to a title unification match. So, that being said, these belts will get unified, and I guess you go to every show, which is how the original WWE Tag Team Women's Tag Team Championships were supposed to be. Bayley and Sasha showed up to NXT one time,
and then they're gonna get new belts too for these.
Yeah.
They'll look exactly the same as the other ones.
They're just gonna look like the men's but white.
Yeah.
It'll be the big silver fucking
I hate the
Spartan faces. So both teams end up brawling there with the NXT champs getting the upper hand. Look, Ronda and Shayna are gonna fucking win. All right, it's Ronda. They just got the belts.
Yeah, they're putting everything on her.
Yeah. We had another Women's Money in the Bank qualifier, Bayley and Mia Yim with AJ Styles on commentary. Winner was Bayley, and Scarlett, Karrion Kross's Scarlett, appears afterwards and blows red mist or red powder in AJ's face from her hand. And AJ falls backwards into the barricade, and Karrion Kross pops up and puts AJ in the cross jacket. Chokes him out. So I guess this is not over yet, like I was hoping. I thought it was a one. They already had a match.
I know.
So I don't know the point of this, but they keep trying with Karrion Kross, I guess.
It's never gonna
It's
work.
all that hair. It's all that hair heat.
It's hair heat.
All right. This is a big part of the show. Let's talk about the Asuka Championship presentation. Adam Pearce welcomes Asuka to the ring and unveils the new WWE Women's Championship. Not SmackDown Women's Championship, the WWE Women's Championship. All right. Jeremy, what does this championship look like?
Do you know what Roman's looks like? It's that,
Yes.
but white.
Oh, classic WWE. It's what they did with the new Women's Championship at WrestleMania to make it look like the WWE. And it looks the same as every championship since 2014 that are like the main titles with just different colors interchanged.
Yeah. I don't like it at all.
Not fooling me. I hate it. I told you beforehand, I audibly laughed when I saw the clip on Instagram before I watched the show.
Yeah.
I don't remember where it was, but I was like, no way, dude. Like, I just could not believe it.
Yeah. And like the crowd is just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then the commentators have to be like, oh, this is amazing. I'm like, guys, come on.
Well, one good thing that came out of this segment is Charlotte Flair returned to a great crowd reaction.
Yeah, do you see Bianca wasn't happy about that?
Yeah. Yep. She jumped the line. Well, speaking of lines, Adam Pearce says, you need to get in line. And Charlotte Flair says, I don't wait in line. I made the line. And she respects Asuka more than anyone. And Asuka should know that, but she wants that championship. And challenges her for the title. Asuka accepts. And she goes to spray Charlotte with her blue mist, but Charlotte dodges the mist and takes out Asuka. Yeah, Bianca Belair, didn't she tweet or in an interview? I know backstage they show her not happy. They show her not happy, but what was the tweet, if you could summarize it? They showed her not happy backstage, but...
Yeah, what was it, Tim?
I didn't see
No,
the
he said
tweet.
he didn't see. I didn't see it either.
Oh.
I just heard about it.
I mean, it was basically that of like her jumping the line and then Bianca not getting a rematch after all that time.
Hey, if you were as good as Charlotte Flair was, you wouldn't have to wait in line.
Virtual high five.
She had the longest
dude.
reign.
Sounds like a whole lot of bitching.
She had the longest reign out of like any women's champion, right?
Yeah, so why are you
Bianca?
so mad
Yeah.
for her, bro?
Over a year.
Why are you so mad
Longest
about
women's
dude?
champion in modern era.
That's like, okay, that's like, I'm trying to think of like a good example. That's like, I mean, I don't want to think about Punk.
Who had a really long time during the ruthless aggression?
No, but like, I'm just thinking about like, I'm just trying to think about like, that'd be like if
Cena.
If Kurt
See,
Angle,
Roman's going on like 3+ years, so
that'd be like if Kurt Angle had a year-plus title reign, but then he got mad that The Rock came back and won it. It's like, dude, well, I mean, it's the big star. They're gonna win it back. Like, it's gonna be a thing, you know?
I don't think Asuka's losing to Charlotte though.
I don't think so either, but it's just like she's obviously
do you
going
have
to be in the
Bianca
title.
turn heel after this babyface run?
Is
You have
Undertaker
Charlotte versus Bianca?
is Undertaker not going to be in the title
Sorry.
picture? Is Ric Flair not going to be in the title picture? Is The Rock not going to be in the title picture? These people are going to be in the title picture. Charlotte Flair is going to be in the title picture. She's a main event.
I thought you were asking about that like now, and I was like, no, they're not going to be. But
Yeah, it was rare that like Cena during the PG era was not in the title picture.
yeah,
Even if he didn't win, he's going to
Every
be
once
in
in
the
a while
mix.
he would have. Yeah. Whether it's a fatal 4-way, triple threat, he's involved somehow.
Triple H, and regardless of the fact that people are like, oh, he was married to Stephanie, but like Triple H did not win tons of matches, but he was always like in the group.
Dude, to me, his World Heavyweight Championship run was forever.
If you look
But it
back,
wasn't.
It wasn't long at all.
Goldberg was the first
Yeah.
to beat him? Right? No, Shawn. What am I saying? Shawn right away. And then he had it for a minute. And then Goldberg won it, I think.
And then he won it back.
And then he won it back. And then what? Benoit?
And then Benoit.
Then Randy. And then Triple H again.
Yep.
Speaking of Benoit, you see his son?
And then Bob Batista.
Yeah.
You see Benoit's son is trying to wrestle, but...
Is he going under the name Chris Benoit Jr.?
I don't know, but I don't think WWE's going to let him.
No, man, because he's a carbon copy of his face.
Yeah.
And he's talked about how he wants to be called Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
And he wants to wear the
Imagine
gear.
him coming out under the name Chris Benoit, wear the gear, does the moves, and the music is do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah, then
AEW would be like, that's a good idea. AEW would do that shit. Tony Khan would do that shit.
He would be like, just spell it a little bit differently, like Chris differently.
I do feel bad for him. It's like you don't.
I know, but
you don't want to like be like, oh, my dad is this, but it's like, bro, you can't. You just can't. You can't do it.
The Rock's daughter ain't going under the name anything Johnson or the Pebble or nothing related.
The Pebble.
Yeah, but it's just like he also is like, I'm gonna bring honor back to my dad's name, and it's like that's very.
It's never happened.
It's very valiant of you, very
journey.
noble of you.
Yeah,
but it's never gonna happen, dude.
Terrible. Anyway, Heyman is backstage and he's still trying to convince Jay. And I forget what was said, but Jay says, I don't know why you're so happy, because if I'm in the bloodline, you out the bloodline. And Heyman gets all nervous after that. We have a men's Money in the Bank qualifier, Butch versus Baron Corbin. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. I wrote down Tricky. Trick Williams are in the crowd. Baron Corbin has been feuding with the NXT champion Carmelo Hayes. So he was in the crowd. And I guess due to them being in the crowd and being a distraction, Butch ended up winning. So Butch, Pete Dunne, will be in the UK, his home turf, for Money in the Bank. And I'm sure there will be lots of bruiserweight chants, because we haven't heard it in a while, but being over there. Speaking of NXT, though, before I forget, Braun Breaker sent out a challenge to Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship. So I believe Seth,
that'd be a good match,
before Money in the Bank, is going to be showing up and wrestling Braun Breaker in NXT. Apparently, Nick Khan wants people to come down more often and work with the young guys and be on TV
down to NXT
and do some stuff. So,
yeah,
I'm sure Seth is kind of like a litmus test, like for someone like Braun Breaker, who they're high on. Also,
oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, he sent out a challenge this week on NXT. We had a women's Money in the Bank qualifier, Shotzi versus Io Sky. Winner was Io Sky. So now we have two members of Damage Control in the Money in the Bank. Dakota Kai is still hurt. All right, one of my favorite parts. Kevin Owens freaks out in the locker room with all the SmackDown tag teams around him.
I love this.
I mean, I forget exactly what he says, but
Adam just comes up to me. He's like, "What's wrong?"
He's like, "Everyone's too close to me." He's like, "They showed up. He's like, "Everyone's too close to me." He's like, "Can't take it anymore."
Yeah, I saw so many TikToks and everything. Like, that's gonna be like a GIF from now on.
Of like when you're like uncomfortable in a space or something. It's just like, or you were at a party and something like that. Yeah. But because of this, there's a number one contender gauntlet match set with the teams on SmackDown. And then our main event was Jey Uso versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship. Towards the end of the match, I mean, solid match. And then towards the end, though, the ref gets knocked down. Jay had the win. The crowd chants past 3. Pretty deadly, though, attack. I don't know why they're working with Theory, but Jimmy Uso comes out and saves Jay. Solo then comes out, goes to take out Jimmy, which, okay, I have an issue with this, but I also get it at the same time. Jimmy would want his brother to win, right? And so would Solo. So Solo attacking Jimmy doesn't make sense, but it does, though, too, because Solo attacked Jimmy last week and they have bad blood with each other. But they're
loyal to the
fucking
bloodline,
up.
bro. He's loyal to the tribal chief.
But they're messing up. I know, but Solo wants Jay to win. Jimmy wants Jay to win. But
how do we know that Solo wants Jay to win?
Because they've been asking all night for him to join the bloodline. That was the whole story of SmackDown. But because Jimmy and Solo have their own beef, both sides are in the wrong or at fault for making Jay lose the match. So I guess I get it. So Jay stops Solo from attacking Jimmy. Jimmy goes for a super kick. Solo ducks. Jimmy hits Jay. Jimmy then takes out Solo. The winner is Austin Theory. Jay's pissed that he lost, and he shoves his brother Jimmy. And he walks past Solo and Heyman up the ramp. So Jay's mad at everyone, and that's how SmackDown goes off the air. Speaking of, I'm looking at Raw, and that's the headline, basically. Do you guys have anything to add to SmackDown before we go into Rampage?
No, I liked all 3 shows this week.
And notice how you didn't say 4. Rampage. The Hardys come out during Ethan Page's match. Jeff says, he said, Ethan, I extended you 2 gifts, and you haven't even extended them. And then Ethan Page has to grab his wrist, and he pulls up the Jeff Hardy armbands.
It's so stupid.
It's so dumb. It was so stupid. He said, Ethan, I extended 2 gifts to you, and you haven't even extended them. But Ethan, because, Matt Hardy has Ethan Page's contract now.
Yeah.
Ethan Page pulls the armbands up, but he ends up getting rolled up, and he loses the match.
Did you guys see? Thank God it didn't air. Like what happened afterwards
with this match or this part?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
They basically made Ethan dance and do Jeff Hardy's dance, and everyone was doing it. And
he did the juke.
Yeah.
For the live crowd.
Yeah.
I love the Hardys, but they're treading in a territory. They're going down a path that I can't follow. I feel like Padme to Anakin.
Going down a path I can't follow.
Tony Khan turned them against me.
You turned them against me.
We have a terrible, terrible trios tag match set. Jeff Jarrett and his wife Karen Jarrett and Jay Lethal versus Mark Briscoe, referee Aubrey Edwards, and Papa Briscoe.
This was not great.
This is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
This does not make for good television.
When is this happening?
I don't know, and I don't care. Hopefully on a Rampage, and there's nothing else that goes on, so we don't have to watch it.
It better be Rampage because it better be taped.
Oh, God. Yeah, so they can do some fucking editing. And then last week, we had a 4-way match for a title shot at the AEW Women's Championship. Britt Baker versus Sky Blue versus Mercedes Martinez versus Nyla Rose. Winner was Sky Blue. The fans were kind of in shock. Based off their reaction. So it looks like Sky Blue, I guess, is going after Jamie Hayter. Sky Blue is weirdly popular. And it's been a natural kind of growing.
Yeah, I do like her. Her character is very she seems genuine.
It's because she's got a fatty on her.
Oh my God! Holy shit!
Just kidding. Or am I?
And first of all, the women's champion is Toni Storm.
Oh yeah, she is Toni Storm. Who also has a fatty on her.
All right, we can edit all this out.
All right.
God. I'm gonna leave that in now, Tim.
So Tim mentioned last week we are not going to end with Rampage. We are going to end with thoughts on the first 2 episodes of the new season of Dark Side of the Ring. Next week, we'll talk about the third, which before we get into this week's, I just want to talk about what the third is because maybe Tim can give us a backstory since he is the old school wrestling fan and I don't know this part. So it is called Breaking the Cycle, the Graham Dynasty. Florida became a wrestling mecca for decades under patriarch Eddie Graham and his son Mike. But a series of shocking and unrelenting tragedies threatened to eclipse their legacy. Do you know anything about the Graham Dynasty?
Yeah.
Never heard anything.
Yeah, Eddie Graham started like the championship wrestling from Florida, which is not the same as the FCW that people think of now. But
back in the territory days, they were Florida basically.
And he gave a lot of people their start. I believe even like all the Armstrong family, like Road Dogg and his dad and brothers all went through there. Bullet Bob Armstrong, and then Road Dogg and his brothers, among others. Like I was saying, Dusty, who was their big star. His son, Mike Graham, went on to be a wrestler as well. Not as successful as his father. Never went on to be a big star, but he did work behind the scenes for a few companies. He unfortunately also passed away of suicide, just like his dad. Suicide apparently runs in their... Yeah, apparently suicide runs in their family, so... It's there's not.
That's what it will touch on then.
Yeah, it's not
the
just
tragedy part.
It's not just the two of them. There's more than just the two of them that have unfortunately unalived themselves.
So that we will cover just that episode at the end of next week's episode of the pod. But this week we're gonna end, and I was gonna say positive, but Dark Side of the Ring is never positive. So the first episode of this season. I don't know if you guys were able to get to both. I was able to get to both. So,
I did watch both. They were both
can't
awesome.
add to one, that's fine. Okay. Well, we'll first start with the first episode, which was about Chris Candido and Tammy Stitch.
It's Tammy Sitch.
A.K.A. Sonny.
Tammy Lynn Sitch.
Who basically dated young. He was into wrestling. Brought her along. She didn't plan on doing it as like her main goal, but she became very popular and
corny.
He got into WWE. He had a terrible gimmick. There was lots of infidelity.
Yeah, Corny gave them their start in Smoky Mountain.
Yes.
After they left Smoky Mountain, they went to WWE. They gave him a gimmick called the Body Donnas with
it was like a fitness.
Yeah, and then Tom Pritchard became his tag team partner. Sonny was their manager.
He says it was a terrible gimmick. He's like, it was terrible. He's like, I hated it.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
sad though. He left. He went to Impact, right? TNA.
Well,
when it was kind of like starting.
Well, I feel like I know that we're trying to like get through this but he did go to ECW for a time, which is where he made a big name for himself. A lot of people love his ECW work the most.
He went to ECW after leaving WWE, though, correct?
Yes, and people love. I would say that his most respected work is the ECW stuff. That people look back fondly on from a professional wrestling point of view. And unfortunately, he had
a bit of a drug stint, but then beat that, and then he broke his leg.
Yeah, he broke his shin
and had surgery.
And then he got on an airplane to go to Impact, and
blood clotting, I believe.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to, after you have surgery, you're not supposed to fly on an airplane because of that. And he ended up getting a blood clot and dying from it. So he didn't even die from drugs or anything.
That has to be like one of the hardest ways to go.
And it was sad.
It's like super sad though, because like he beat the drugs, and then he found his passion for wrestling again, and he was starting to, be all about it. And then
he thought his career was
he was
over
like 31.
He was 31 or 32. I'm like, bro, in my head, I'm like, dude, what? I'm like, get back on that horse, bro. What are you
It's like right now,
about?
if I'm 30, I'll be
If you're
31
like, my
next
life
year. That's
is
like
over.
My career just being over now.
If you're like, oh, my life's over, I'm like, what?
That's like,
and then
wrestlers starting their career now.
But with this episode, yes, he passed away, but both had both Tammy and his lives did not turn out well. Yes, she's still alive, but she's probably going to be in jail forever for manslaughter while drunk driving. I mean, she's been arrested numerous times, but her most recent one is probably going to be her last because of just everything over the time.
Yeah, she unfortunately does not seem very remorseful based off some audio clips that they put in the episode. And the other episode was about... Yeah.
I'll let you talk about it, but it was about Magnum TA, who I believe got his start in Jim Crockett promotions.
That's where he became a worldwide
Magnum
phenomenon.
TA.
Yeah, he did go through some. He was I believe in the show that they said he was either I think he was a bouncer, or he worked somewhere where all these wrestlers would pass through frequently, and he was a big guy, and these wrestler guys would make jokes to him like, "Oh, you're a big guy, you should be a wrestler," kind of thing. Well, finally, this guy was like, and I should have taken notes during the show, and I do know the name of the guy, but there was a wrestler that told him that, hey, I'll help you become a wrestler, but in order to get a pro wrestler license, it costs $10,000. So this Magnum TA's grandfather, who said he believed in him, gave him the $10,000 and then disappeared. And then this scumbag guy disappeared. And then Magnum TA found the guy and showed up at his doorstep and was like, "You're basically like, you're gonna teach me how to."
Made him train him.
He's like, "You're gonna teach me how to wrestle. Like, you're not gonna fuck me over."
Big guy, Magnum TA.
And so he did, very shittily. He said it was like a 1-day training session, and then he basically learned on the road and traveled the territories, and finally.
And then his gimmick, though, when he finally found a gimmick, his gimmick was after Magnum PI, which was Tom Selleck.
Right.
And his name was Terry Allen. This is his real name, so he became Magnum TA.
Yeah, it was
he
Andre
kind of like
the
a
Giant.
biker look and a mustache.
Yeah, Andre the Giant gave him the name. And then unfortunately,
but his story, he was about to become champ down there. They were about to put the strap on him, right?
Yeah, so he was in Jim Crockett Promotions. He was about to become the champion. He was being groomed to become the champion. And, with the extra income, he had bought himself a sports car, and unfortunately was driving too fast one night, and it was raining, and he hydroplaned. And this is at the peak of his career. He's about to wrestle Ric Flair for the title. He could have been a big
star, man. He had a great look.
And then he gets in the car accident, and he basically becomes a quadriplegic. But by some miracle, he can kind of walk and kind of like move around a little bit still today. But like
and they tried to do stuff with him, but it just didn't look great on TV.
What's funny about him though is he only wanted to be a wrestler in his 20s, and his career ended in his 20s. And he thought that basically.
What do you say? If I'm 30-something, still wrestling in my underwear, he's like,
it's embarrassing or something like that. So like, he was like, I want to be done. So he said that. I think at the end of the episode, he even says like, he doesn't have that about the wrestling. At least he doesn't have that many regrets about what could have been type thing.
So, fun fact. I mean, his wife now, his second wife. Is I guess the ex-wife of Tully Blanchard.
There's a little bit
She
of
was in the.
There's some criticism of this episode that they didn't go into that.
Oh, because that's a whole other thing.
Because Magnum TA raised one of Tully Blanchard's kids, and like, there's some more to that story. So there's this. Some people were like, "Oh, this episode was bullshit" because they didn't tell the full, like, some of the full story. But whatever.
But yeah, when she was talking, I saw that like she had Blanchard in her name. I was like, I wonder, and I looked it up. But both were good episodes. Both were sad, just for different reasons. None of these episodes are happy. But yeah, next week we'll talk about the Graham Dynasty, and that does it for me, Tim. If you want to take us out.
Well,
or Jeremy, do you have anything that you saw the Chris Bandito one?
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I thought that one was really good, but yeah, I didn't see the other one, but I'll have to watch this one next time.
All right, then. Tim, do you have a classic show of the week?
Yeah, so my classic show of the week is, one, go back, watch Starrcade 85, but you don't got to watch the whole show. Just watch Tully versus Magnum TA in the I Quit match. Ironically, those guys had a crazy, bloody match. And then as far as Chris Candido goes, I would say go back, just go on YouTube and look up Chris Candido versus Lance Storm, August 1998. There's about a 7-minute match on there, worth watching. One of Chris Candido's good friends. And Chris Candido is most well known, I feel like, for his ECW stuff. So, yeah, those are my recommendations. And we will talk to you next week with all things pro wrestling.